Damn it, Aaron! Hurry up already! Someone huffed. Aaron laughed and finished his story. Elaine did the deed with him that night, and he hit the jackpot. Not long after, they realized that Elaine was pregnant. Matilda left the country immediately after graduation, so Jacob had no choice but to marry Elaine. Ha 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 ha! Everyone laughed hysterically upon the reveal. No one would have predicted such an amazing twist in the story. Jake added, "Wow, Uncle Wilson, you're incredible. You're like the main character in a romance movie where you broke up with your college sweetheart and married your nemesis." Ha 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 ha. Charlie was not in place to comment about the matter, but he found the whole incident hilarious as well. Never did he think that there was this kind of backstory of his parents-in-law. Elaine was herself through and through. Not only did she get Jacob drunk, but she also did the deed with him. It was such a devious act. After muffling their laughter, the men felt sympathetic toward Jacob and started offering him words of encouragement and comfort. Aaron still kept an eye on Jacob and said with a laugh, "Don't sympathize with Jacob yet. Elaine was pretty miserable to marry him." The crowd was puzzled. "What's so miserable about it? She got to marry Jacob, isn't that enough?" Aaron sighed. "Oh, there's something you don't know. Elaine was aiming at rich kids, dreaming that she would marry them and live a lavish life after marriage. That was why she fell in love with Jacob, because, well, his family was quite rich at that time." Then, he changed his tone to one of mockery and said, "But who knew? Jacob would be so useless after graduation. He didn't get any resources nor attention from his family, and then the family started to deteriorate year after year. Elaine's dream of becoming the wife of a rich man was shattered. She didn't even know that she married a deadbeat loser." Jacob was abashed as Aaron revealed his affairs, his face turning into a bright shade of red as he shouted, "Aaron Phillips, I'm warning you! Stay away from my business!" Aaron snorted. "Huh. Everyone in Orros Hill knows about your family's affairs. Do you think they won't know about it if I shut up?" Then, he continued loudly, "Initially, your family was quite influential and powerful, so you could still cheat your way when you're outside by using your family's name. But now, your family is done. You are just a loser who doesn't know how to earn money. Elaine is playing mahjong day in and day out. Without a proper job, your son-in-law is just a deadbeat moocher. Thus, your entire family solely depends on your daughter's income. I wonder what kind of sins did your daughter commit in her previous life that she was reincarnated into such a useless family and ended up with a loser husband. I pity her." Charlie grew a little agitated upon the mention of Claire. He wouldn't mind if they teased him or even his in-laws, but he would never allow them to comment about Claire, because she was his wife. He frowned and said, "Uncle Phillips, just mind your own business. Stop poking your nose into other families' affairs." Aaron responded with a look of disdain. "Why? I'm just concerned about your family, am I wrong?" Then he stood up and blurted in an arrogant tone, "Yes, I think that it's a pity for Jacob's daughter to be in such a dysfunctional family. Look at me. I'm in the senior management of a petrochemical company. I earn a salary of $20,000 a month just by reporting at work daily. When I retire at the age of 65, I'll get a pension of around $20,000 and 100% reimbursement for medical treatment. My wife is a deputy manager of the company too. She earns $15,000 a month. When we both retire, our national pension will be worth $40,000 a month. Now look at Jacob and Elaine. They are in their 50s but do not have a formal job. They won't even have a pension when they are old. They will become a social burden, won't they?" Next, he pulled his son-in-law to stand beside him and said seriously, "Now, look at my son-in-law, the CEO of Orros Continental Technology, which will soon be listed on the GEM. His company's revenue will reach about $1 to $2 billion a year, and he can be regarded as one of the top pioneers in Orros Hill. Look at how our family is thriving. This is what a comfortable life should be." The flattering and envious voices resonated around them, everyone praising Aaron and Jake. Indeed, their family's career and their financial foundation were enviable among the crowd. Aaron was indulging in the awe and admiration that was showered upon him at this moment as he glared disdainfully at Jacob and Charlie, thinking, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. It truly doesn't disappoint me. I'm so excited and happy." However, he failed to notice the playful smirk on the corner of Charlie's lips. "Oh, are you and your wife working at the petrochemical company? And your son-in-law is the CEO of Oros Continental Technology. Good to know. I was a bit worried about how to deal with you, but thankfully, you've revealed all of your information. Thank you for that." Thanks to Aaron's information, Charlie sent Isaac a message asking him to investigate Aaron Phillips and his wife's personal information, as well as their track record at the petrochemical company. At the same time, he asked him to check the relevant information of Oros Continental Technology. While Isaac was working on the tasks, Aaron was enjoying the flattering words and admiration of his friends. This group of old people mostly worked in government sectors or state-owned enterprises. Most of them were regular staff who had spent their years working hard for the company. They were earning a few $1,000s a month, which fell short of the best, but better than the worst. Hence, Aaron, who was in the senior management of the petrochemical company, made them very envious. The petrochemical company provided the perfect track of performance and revenue. Although the management team in a petrochemical company was not its core cadres, it could be regarded as one of the prominent positions in the company. Based on their salary package and employees' welfare, it was a lucrative career that surpassed everyone in the room. What's more, his son-in-law was the CEO of a company that was about to go public. A listed company could garner a net worth of several billion or even tens of billions. Jake was still so young he would likely be a super rich man given a few years. Jacob felt defeated and upset. Back then, Aaron had indeed been his defeated opponent. He went after Matilda with great efforts, but she had ignored him completely. On the contrary, Matilda and Jacob had fallen in love at first sight. Aaron was spreading falsified rumors about how Matilda only saw him as a backup. It was total bullshit. Back then, he and Matilda were madly in love and had even wanted to get married then. Matilda had even lost her virginity to him. Unfortunately, Elaine, the shameless vixen, had set him up. She made him drunk, did the deed with him, and went to flaunt it to Matilda. Matilda had been heartbroken and left the country. In summary, Elaine was the cause of everything that had happened to him. If it weren't for her, he would have gotten married to Matilda, furthered their studies abroad together, and started their lives together there. As the memories flooded Jacob's mind, he was bombarded by a mixture of feelings and overwhelming bitterness. It was so painfully bitter that he felt like crying and couldn't be bothered by Aaron's attack. At this moment, Charlie received a reply from Isaac. He had obtained the detailed information of Aaron and his family in just a few minutes. Aaron Phillips, the deputy chief of the sales department of the petrochemical department. He seemed to have quite a bit of authority with a lucrative salary package, but he took quite a large amount of kickbacks and bribery. On the surface, it seemed as though he only earned $20,000 of wages a month. But the fact was he had bribed thousands of millions of dollars using his position as a mask. Some of the assets he embezzled had been transferred to offshore accounts overseas, some under his daughter's name, and some were laundered by investing in Jake's company. As for Jake Dunn, he was a loser who had failed many times in his business a few years ago. When he found out that Aaron was a small-time leader with real authority in the petrochemical company, he had pursued his daughter and had gotten her pregnant. They had gotten married immediately afterward. He had asked Aaron to support his business. Thus, Aaron personally funded $30 million for Jake to start up his company. Moreover, Jake's Oros Continental Technology was essentially a money laundering company for several illegal casinos in Oros Hill. They had established an internet crowdfunding app that imitated a fundraising website for sick patients, but in fact the so-called donations came from multiple accounts in the underworld. The money was aggregated into a large pool, then it would be distributed to the virtual patients in millions of dollars. That was why the company's track of performance seemed perfect in the book. Ironically, the biggest client of Jake's company was Don Albert Rhodes. Albert owned several underground casinos in Oroas Hill that he laundered the money through the company's crowdfunding app. A gratified smile appeared on Charlie's face as he read the messages. Aaron Phillips, Jake Dunn, I will let you enjoy this for a few more minutes. When you have had enough, what awaits you is endless darkness. At this moment, someone shouted from outside, Guys, Mr. Lee is here. Quick, get 2 young men to help carry him up the stairs. Jacob finally breathed a sigh of relief and urged Charlie, Hurry, go and help. Charlie nodded. Aaron said to Jake as well, You too. We old folks are not as strong as the youngsters. We can't do it anymore. Okay. Jake nodded and walked out the door with Charlie. As they walked down the stairs, the supercilious Jake walked ahead of Charlie and didn't bother to even bat an eye at him. Charlie couldn't be bothered either. This bugger and his company wouldn't survive after today anyway. He just needed to find the best timing to deliver the fatal blow. Extreme joy spawned extreme sadness, and that was the worst blow a man could get. Jake hadn't reached extreme joy yet. They arrived downstairs and saw an 80-something-year-old man with white hair sitting in a wheelchair and looking up at the old school building. A middle-aged man was standing next to him. He smiled when he saw Charlie and Jake, and he said, Hi, thank you for your help. I'm sorry for the bother, but I really can't carry him up the stairs. The lecture building is so old, there isn't even an elevator installed. My dad always wanted to come back to school to have a look after he retired, but because of his legs, he can't go anywhere. The old man laughed. Well, you watch over me like a mother hen just because you don't want me to move a muscle. I can climb up there myself if I want to. This tickled his son's laughing bug, and he laughed along with his father as he said, Father, you've been teaching at the university for your whole life. Aren't you bored of the campus? Mr. Lee shook his head with a warm smile on his face and said righteously, Teaching and educating people is a lifelong mission. His son smiled helplessly and said, Okay, fine. We'll fulfill your wish today and let you give your old students a lesson. Charlie listened in awe and respect. These older generation educators saw their occupation more than just a job, but a lifetime career, a faith. There was a trace of disdain that flashed across Jake's face, but he remained expressionless and said, Let's go. Everyone is waiting. Then he looked at Charlie and urged, Hey, come and give me a hand. Charlie replied without even looking back at him, I'd rather do it by myself than work with a clumsy person like you. I don't want Mr. Lee to fall and hurt himself. What? Are you sure you can do it alone? Jake glared at him in disbelief. Ignoring him, Charlie walked behind the wheelchair, stretched his arms on the wheels, and grabbed them firmly. Then, he lifted the wheelchair as if he was a forklift and walked up the stairs steadily. To begin with, Charlie's physical strength was extraordinary. Also, he had taken 2 of the rejuvenating pills a few days ago after he had made them, and his physical strength had improved greatly. It was nothing to him if he had to carry a much heavier load, let alone an old man in a wheelchair. Jake was astonished, yet he shrugged happily since he could save his energy without having to lift the old man. He followed behind them and said with a grin, Hey, tough guy. Since you're so strong, you can work at the construction site carrying bricks and concrete. I have a friend who is in the construction industry. Would you like me to introduce him to you? Charlie looked back at him and asked with a smile, Oh, do you want to carry bricks and concrete at the construction site? I meant you, Jake growled contemptuously. Charlie chuckled. Okay, good to know that you've made an arrangement for yourself. So, I'll let you work at a construction site for 20 years. What do you think? Jake hissed at Charlie's irrelevant response. Do you think it's funny? It's actually an honor to let you work at the construction site. Charlie nodded with a laugh. All right, I know, I get it. I'll arrange it for you. Jake was irritated by his ambiguous remark and chided, "Crazy!" Then he added, "As an experienced person, let me give you some advice. You are still young. Go out and find something serious to do. You may still be successful in the coming days." What? Did you think working in construction is an obscure job? No, it's not. Do you know Arnold Schwarzenegger? He was laying bricks and started his own construction business. Okay, his business failed, but he became famous, didn't he? Besides, look at the latest trends. TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook are so popular right now, you could register for an account and post some of your daily work at the construction site. Maybe you will become famous. By the way, I have a Snapchat account. Do you want to follow me? Jake asked disdainfully. Oh, you, as a house husband, have a Snapchat account, huh? What's your username? Oris's Biggest Loser? Charlie chuckled. A house husband? I'm an amazing son-in-law. Amazing son-in-law? Jake glared at Charlie in contempt. You? Amazing? Oh, please, can you be less cocky? If you are amazing, then am I godlike, a deity, a maker then? You are just a muddy son-in-law. A muddy son-in-law? What do you mean? Charlie laughed. The son-in-law who carries bricks. Don't you understand this? Fuck, Jake cursed. How dare you? Charlie ignored him. He carried Mr. Lee and walked swiftly up the stairs to the classroom. Mr. Lee patted Charlie's hand and said, "Thank you, young man. You can face humiliation with humor and stand your ground. You have a bright and promising future." Then, Mr. Lee turned his wheelchair and entered the room. Jake muttered in a scornful tone, "Huh, bloody old man. I wonder where he can tell that this bugger is promising." Charlie couldn't be bothered by his sarcasm. He was not far from his destiny anyway. With the arrival of Mr. Lee, a loud cheer echoed across the room as the guys came forward to greet their teacher. The relationship between teachers and students in their era could even be described as a relationship between father and son. Mr. Lee nodded with a pleasant sigh as he looked at his students who were now with wrinkled faces and grayish hair. He had been a lecturer all his life, and he had students all over the country and even the world. He felt no regrets as he looked at his students. "Mr. Lee, give us another lecture," someone suggested with a sobbing voice. The rest of the group nodded simultaneously. Mr. Lee nodded, tears flooding his eyes. He sat behind the podium, his fingers stroking the rough surface, and he slowly said, "Good morning, class." "Good morning, Mr. Lee," the crowd shouted in unison. Mr. Lee smiled lightly. "I'm too old to even stand on my feet, and I can't shout like I used to do. Hence, the quality of the lecture may not be as good as before. Please accept my apology." Everyone's eyes started turning red, and some of them even cried a little. "Oh, Mr. Lee, please don't. You don't have to apologize to us." Mr. Lee plastered a warm smile on his face. "I've been through thick and thin for all my life. I've witnessed your growth. I've witnessed the development of the country. I have nothing much to say but this. Be contented with a simple and virtuous life. Delight in wisdom. I'm still a poor old man after years of teaching, but my lifetime ideology is to live happily and be content with no regrets." Loud applause shook the classroom. Everyone cheered, especially Jacob. He felt that Mr. Lee was the beacon to show the way after hearing what he said. Although he didn't have much money, indulging himself in the antiques and cultural relics was his way to pursue happiness, so he was glad about it. Of course, there was still a source of pain in his life, and that was Elaine. Mr. Lee shuddered slightly as he gave everyone a lecture about ancient language history on stage. Then, as he panted heavily, everyone quickly helped him down. They were satisfied to be able to listen to their beloved lecturer's class, so they were grateful for his effort. Aaron started, "Hey, since everyone's wish for a lecture has been granted and it's such a rare opportunity for us to get together, I'll let Jake reserve a place for us to relax and have fun." Then he turned to Jake and asked, "By the way, Jake, "Do you have any recommendations? I want the best venue." Jake nodded and said, "There is a clubhouse called the Glorious Club that was recently opened in Orros Hill, which belongs to the Moore family. It is said to be the largest and most luxurious entertainment hub in the city. I'm one of their members, so we can continue our party there. It's on my tab." The crowd gasped and grinned when they heard that Jake was a member of the Glorious Club. The clubhouse was truly extraordinary and exquisite. It was known to be the most upscale venue in Orros Hill, and its members were prominent figures in the city. In other words, if you were not at the top of the social pyramid in Orros Hill, you would never be eligible to be a member of the club. The requirement of the membership of the club was also an important reference for determining the person's status in society. Jake was certainly outstanding to be one of their members at such a young age. Moreover, everyone had heard of the Glorious Club, but apart from Jake, none of them was a member. Not just a member, they didn't even have the chance to enter the club and experience what the luxurious leisure club in the city was like. Now, thanks to Jake, they could finally enter the club and see for themselves. It would be the best chance for them to show off if they could take pictures inside the club and upload it on their social media. Hence, the crowd started flattering Jake again. Jake, of course, was enjoying the attention he gained yet again. The membership of the Glorious Club was his latest tool to flaunt himself and had proved effective every time. Whenever he announced that he was a member of the club, he would be showered with praises and compliments that he enjoyed dearly. However, he had not gotten the membership because he was qualified. Instead, he had begged Don Albert several times for a favor, and Don Albert had finally helped him to register as a member. Don Albert would not have done such a thing had it not been for using him as a money laundering machine. After all, in Albert's eyes, this kind of person was no different from Axel Jordan, the guy who created a scam out of the P2P scheme. They were just his dogs who executed tasks for him. For these dogs to stay loyal and keep bringing him wealth and fame, he had to throw them a few bones and treats once in a while. This way, these dogs would work harder. Soon, everyone hopped into multiple cars and went to the Glorious Club. Mr. Lee was hesitant to go, but since it was rare for them to get together and his students had invited him to join them enthusiastically, he agreed. Charlie and Jacob hopped into a taxi together. Jacob whined angrily, "That Aaron Phillips is too much. Why can't he just leave me alone? Ah, damn, I'm pissed." Charlie chuckled at his whining and said, "Dad, if you're so upset, let's just go home then." "No," Jacob muttered. "I haven't been to the clubhouse. I want to go and see." Charlie shrugged and nodded. When they arrived at the clubhouse, everyone gathered in the lobby. They were mesmerized and amazed at the luxurious decorations of the clubhouse. The extremely expensive and sophisticated interior design of the clubhouse had exceeded these elderly people's imagination and their memories about a recreation center. Jacob was equally amazed. He pointed his phone around the lobby and took multiple pictures, even uploading them on his social media to show off. Jake proudly explained, "Uncles, the clubhouse has 15 floors. The higher the floor, the higher the qualification requirements for membership. The floors are divided according to the membership tier. You can't simply go to the upper floor if your membership doesn't have the authorization. The minimum spending limit on the first floor, the lowest and most basic level, is about $100,000. Ordinary people simply can't afford it." Loud gapes resonated across the group. 100,000 was their minimum spending limit? An average family of 3 couldn't even make so much money in a year. Indeed, not everyone could afford such a service. Under the gazes of admirations and appreciation, Jake took out his membership card and flaunted it around. The card was silver in color. It was very beautifully crafted and shone brightly. He handed the card to the front desk while saying, "I'm just a silver card member, but it is ranked second in the tier. Below me is the classic membership. As a silver card member, I can go to the 7th floor and below. This time, I'll take you all directly to the 7th floor." Then he added, "The minimum spending limit for the 7th floor is $300,000, very exclusive." Aaron turned to Jacob and said arrogantly, "Hey, Jacob, I bet you have never been to such a high-end place, huh? You should thank me. It's your honor that my son-in-law gets to bring all of us into this place, and also a chance to expose yourself to the lifestyle of the upper-class society." Jacob's face turned gloomy. "How would you know that I've never been to such a place? Let me tell you, I've been to such places. I've experienced great things, okay?" Aaron mocked indiscreetly. "Ha ha 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 ha. What kind of great things have you experienced? Have you been to the Glorious Club? Have you ever spent a penny here?" Jacob fell into an awkward silence. He wouldn't be able to afford such expenses even when the Wilson family was at its prime, not to mention the fact that his family was going to go bankrupt soon. Jacob sighed dejectedly and shut his mouth. At this moment, Jake walked to the front desk and handed the card over to the receptionist. "Prepare a suite on the 7th floor for us. Put all the expenses on this card," the receptionist said with an apologetic expression. "Sir, I'm so sorry. All our suites on the 7th floor are fully booked. We've checked, but the only available suites for your membership level are on the 3rd floor and below. Would you like us to prepare a suite for you on the 3rd floor?" Jake hissed irritably. "What? Are you serious? You want me to go to the 3rd floor? This is a disgrace to my status and my membership. How will others think of me if I go to the 3rd floor?" "I'm very sorry, sir, but there's nothing I can do. All the suites on the 4th to the 7th floors have been reserved in advance. You did not make any reservation, so our hands are tied. If so, just give me a free upgrade and let me go to the 8th floor or above." "I'm sorry, sir," the receptionist said in a polite yet firm tone. "At the Glorious Club, we only allow downgrade service for the membership tier, but not upgrade. That is to say, if the ceiling of your Silver Card membership only reaches the 7th floor, that means you can only use the facilities from the 7th floor and below, but nothing above the 7th floor. This is the rigid rule of our club." Jake frowned and huffed in annoyance as he shouted, "I don't care! Get me a room on the 7th floor, or find a way for me to use the 8th floor's suite." "I'm very sorry, sir. The 8th floor is reserved for the VIP and VIP Gold members. Unfortunately, your membership is not qualified to use that floor. Besides, we have clearly stipulated here that no one can skip the tier or upgrade their suite. Stipulate rules, the fuck with that. I want a suite on the 7th floor right now. How dare you refuse my demand? Don't you know the customer is king?" "I am so sorry, sir, but I'm not allowed to do so. Maybe you can find a friend who has a higher tier membership and get him or her to book a suite on the higher floor." Jake arched his eyebrow, intrigued. "Find a friend, you say?" "Yes," the receptionist replied politely. "Most of our members here are classic and silver members. That's why there is always a shortage of suites below the 7th floor, but there are plenty of vacant suites on the 8th to the 14th floor. If your friend is a VIP member, you can go up to the 10th floor. If he is a VIP Gold member, you can go up to the 14th floor. Jake gritted his teeth in disdain and sneered, "All right, then. You want me to find a friend, huh? I'll find a friend. To tell you the truth, Don Albert and I are great buddies. He is a VIP member. I'm going to call him right now and ask him to reserve a suite for me. But you'd better think carefully about how you explain yourself to Don Albert for offending his friend." Charlie rolled his eyes in utter disgust as he watched this bizarre scene. The poor girl was just a receptionist who was doing everything per the rules of the club. Why did you threaten her? Besides, you used Don Albert's name as your shield. What were you, a coward fox who hid behind the devilish tiger? So he walked up and said to him, "Mr. Dunn, leave the poor girl alone, okay? She is just doing her job. Besides, the 3rd floor is good enough. Even the 1st floor is already very luxurious. Why do we need to go up to the 7th floor or above?" Jake rolled his eyes in disdain. "Shut up! For a loser like you, it is already a God-sent privilege to drink a glass of water in the club's lobby, but for someone of my status, anything below the 7th floor is an insult to me." Charlie chuckled and said indifferently, "Well, it doesn't matter anyway. This is the last time you'll be able to come to the club, so just enjoy whatever you can." Jake frowned in confusion. "What the heck do you mean by that?" "Oh, did you forget what I told you? You'll be working on the construction site for the next 20 years. This is your last time being in the Glorious Club, so a suite on the 3rd floor is as good as you can get now. After all, you won't be able to enjoy any of this after today." Jake was furious and cursed. "Charlie Wade, was it? Damn it, you fucking loser. If it weren't for the fact that our fathers-in-law are classmates, do you think you can get into the club? I bet you can't even enter their entrance, for fuck's sake. Who do you think you are to be so cocky?" Charlie smiled faintly. "Well, I'll give you 5 minutes to make up your mind. When 5 minutes is up and you don't give me any answer, I'll decide for you." Jake smirked. "What the hell? What decision? Who do you think you are, loser? All right, I'll show you what it's like to be in the upper-class society." He took out his phone and immediately made a call. When his call was answered, he changed into a flattering tone and said respectfully, "Hi, Don Albert. It's me, Jake Dunn. I want to ask you for a favor." Albert was at the Heaven Springs at this time. Donald, the wealthiest and most powerful man in the South region, had reserved the diamond box in the Heaven Springs tonight as he prepared to entertain the head of some of the most prestigious families in Orris Hill. Albert knew that the Webb family was even wealthier and more powerful than the Moore family. Therefore, he did not dare to neglect Donald's orders and personally supervised the chef who was preparing the dishes in the Heaven Springs. As he was arranging for the food preparations, he suddenly received a phone call from Jake. At this time, he asked impatiently, "Yes, what do you want? Hurry up and speak. I'm busy over here." In Albert's eyes, Jake was nothing more than his lapdog. He did not care about Jake the slightest bit because he had so many lapdogs around him anyway. Jake knew that he could not afford to offend Albert. Therefore, he said humbly, "Don Albert, I am at the Glorious Club at the moment. I would like to ask you for a favor." Albert asked immediately, "What's the matter?" Jake hurriedly replied, "I wanted to bring my old man here to enjoy himself tonight, but it seems as though all the rooms on the 7th floor are already full. My membership card is the silver membership card that you helped me obtain before this. Therefore, I cannot go up to any higher floors at all. I would like to ask you to help me to book a room on the 8th floor if it is not too inconvenient for you. After all, you own a VIP membership card here, and your membership is much more honorable than mine." Albert replied faintly, "Maybe another day. I have something to do at the Heaven Springs today, so I cannot go to the Glorious Club right now." At this time, Jake hurriedly pleaded, "Don Albert, please do me this favor. The Heaven Springs is not too far from the Glorious Club. I think you can get here in 5 minutes by car. Could you please make a trip here for my sake? My father-in-law and more than 20 of his classmates are waiting here with me." As he spoke, Jake pleaded once again, "Don Albert, please help me just this once. Otherwise, I would not know where to hide my face anymore." Albert really did not want to help Jake book the room, however. He recalled that Jake was a tool that he could use to launder his gambling money. Therefore, Albert felt that he should give him some warmth sometimes, so that he would continue to be grateful to him. Moreover, the Heaven Springs was indeed not too far away from the Glorious Club. It would probably only take him about 10 minutes to reach there. Therefore, Albert decided to go and help Jake out instead. "Okay, then. I will come over now." Jake was very excited at this time, and he blurted out, "Thank you. Thank you, Don Albert. I will be waiting for you in the lobby on the 1st floor." After hanging up the phone, Jake looked at the waitress with an arrogant expression on his face as he said, "Did you hear that? Don Albert is coming over to help me book a room. You'd better be careful." The waitress was a little nervous, but she calmly replied, "I am sorry, sir, but we have to do everything per the rules of the club. Even if you invite Miss Moore here tonight, I will still have to do things the same way because I have a clear conscience." The expression on Jake's face was very ugly as he said, "You honestly think you are so great, huh? Are you using Miss Moore to try and crush me? The waitress replied immediately, "I do not dare to do so. I am simply telling you the facts." Huh. Jake gave her a disgusted look before he turned around and told his father-in-law and his friends, "Uncles, please just wait for a moment. I have invited the famous Don Albert from Orris Hill to come over and help us book a room on the 8th floor. The 8th floor is even more luxurious than the 7th floor." The crowd of people started cheering and praising him immediately. Many of the old men gave Jake a thumbs up because they were all already looking forward to seeing the 8th floor of the glorious club. Charlie could not help but feel that this situation was very hilarious. This Jake really wanted to die faster. He was asking Albert to come here. Wasn't he seeking death for himself? He had initially wanted him to bask in his joy and sorrows, but it seemed that he wanted to continue pretending that he was very cool. Now it seemed as though this son-in-law had indeed cut off his own chances of living, because he was pretending to be very cool himself. Jake did not know that he had already dug his own grave. Moreover, he was even being complimented by so many people. At this time, Jake walked up to Charlie before he smiled and said arrogantly, "Charlie, you've offended me just now. Therefore, the opportunity to go to the 8th floor of the Glorious Club has nothing to do with you anymore. You can leave with your father-in-law now." Jacob glared at Jake with an ugly expression on his face as he said, "Hey, Jake, don't you think that you are being a little too much? Did you actually think that I came here to eat and drink with you for free? I am here to meet up with my old classmates." Jake curled his lips before he said, "The reunion party with your old classmates? Isn't the party at the school already over? I am the one who arranged for this second party, so are you going to insist on coming along with us even if you are not invited at all?" "Exactly." Aaron snorted coldly as he said, "Jacob, weren't you very arrogant before this? You were a rich second generation when you were in school. Since you're so capable, you can just book a room in the Glorious Club all by yourself then. Do you really intend to let my son-in-law treat you to food and drink for free?" The other classmates never expected Aaron and his son-in-law to suddenly start attacking Jacob and Charlie. Moreover, they were using some very nasty and bad words on them in front of everyone else. However, none of Jacob's classmates dared to step up to help Jacob at all. After all, Aaron's son-in-law was indeed the one who had arranged for the second gathering at the Glorious Club. The only reason they could enter the club was because of Jake in the first place. So, who would possibly dare to speak up for Jacob now? Jacob had a very ugly expression on his face as he blurted out, "Aaron, you are such a bully." "Did I bully you?" Aaron asked disdainfully. "I am simply not inviting you out to have food, drink, and fun with us for free. So why is that considered bullying?" At this time, Jacob quickly replied, "Okay then, if that is the case, I will just pay for my own expenses today. You can just tell me how much it costs per person, and I will pay for myself and my son-in-law." Aaron laughed before he said contemptuously, "Do you really think that everything will be fine if you just pay for your share? Don't you know that you have to own a membership to be able to step into this club? If it weren't for my son-in-law, would you possibly be able to step into the Glorious Club at all? No. So even if you pay me any money, you are not coming in with us tonight." Jacob gritted his teeth before he said, "Aaron, you are really too much." Aaron nodded before he said arrogantly, "Yes, I am really too much. I am doing this on purpose, but what is wrong with that? Who asked you to always challenge me when we were still in school? Who else can you blame now that you are worse off than me?" After that, Aaron continued speaking. "Just take a look at yourself. You are already in your 50s, but you are still so pathetic. You do not have a job and you do not have any pension for your retirement at all. I believe that it is only a matter of time before you are reduced to a beggar on the street. When that time comes, all of our classmates will have to organize a crowdfunding event just to help you." Jacob trembled with anger as he said to Charlie, "Let's go. I do not want to fight with this crazy person anymore." Charlie smiled before he said, "What's the rush, Dad? The show has not even begun yet. It is not too late for us to leave after we watch the show. Aaron glared at Charlie before he said, "You are still waiting to watch a good show? Let me tell you, it is absolutely impossible for the both of you to come with us to the 8th floor today. If you pretend to come upstairs using my son-in-law's name, I will get the security guards to kick you out." Charlie laughed before he said, "The good show that I'm referring to is not a scene on the 8th floor. The good show I'm talking about is a classic drama where the son-in-law will beat up his own father-in-law. I think this show is about to begin in 2 or 3 minutes." Aaron was stunned, and he pointed a finger at Jacob as he laughed and said, "Did you hear that, Jacob? Even your useless son-in-law looks down on you and is prepared to beat you up." "Ha, ha, ha. I really cannot help but wonder how much beating your old bones can stand. Ha, 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 ha." Jacob was taken aback, and he looked at Charlie before he asked, "What do you mean by that, Charlie?" Charlie smiled before he said, "Dad, please do not get me wrong. The classic drama that I am talking about is a scene of Jake beating Aaron up. I suggest that you take out your cell phone and prepare to record a video. There will definitely be a lot of likes when you post this video up on your social media account." Aaron was furious when he heard Charlie's words. He glared at Charlie contemptuously before he said, "You are hilarious. My son-in-law is so filial toward me. Why would he ever hit me?" After he was done talking, Aaron pointed at Jake before he said arrogantly, "Let me tell you something. My son-in-law is so many times better than your trashy son-in-law. Do you know how much pocket money my filial son-in-law gives to me every month? He gives me pocket money of $100,000 every month. I am not despising or looking down on you, but can you even make $100,000 a year?" Jake sneered before he said, "Charlie, you are truly very brave. Don Albert will be here soon. If you don't leave now, do you believe that I will get Don Albert to tear your mouth apart later?" "Are you really going to make Albert tear my mouth apart?" Charlie asked, as he stared at Jake with a look of disbelief on his face. Jake sneered before he said, "What? You don't believe it? Do you know what my relationship to Don Albert is?" Charlie shook his head before he asked out of mock curiosity, "Then why don't you tell me what is your relationship with Albert?" "I am a good brother of Don Albert." After that, Jake glared at Charlie before he said, "Who said that you can call him Albert? You have to call him Don Albert." Charlie smiled before he said, "When Albert arrives later, you can ask him if he dares to make me call him Don Albert. How about that?" Jake looked at Charlie in surprise before he sneered and said, "How dare you be so disrespectful toward Don Albert? You are done for. I will ask Don Albert to tear your mouth apart when he comes here later." Just as he was done speaking, Jake saw Albert walk into the lobby at this time. Moreover, Albert also had 2 followers who were trailing closely behind him. Jake hurriedly waved his hand before he called out excitedly, "Don Albert, I'm here!" Then Jake sneered as he looked at Charlie and said, "Charlie, Don Albert is here. You're dead." As Charlie's back was facing the entrance, Albert did not see him when he was walking in. Moreover, Charlie did not bother to turn around at all. When Don Albert finally arrived in front of them, Jake hurriedly said, "Don Albert, there is a stupid bird here who is being disrespectful toward you. He is calling you directly by your name, Albert." Albert frowned and was about to show off his own power, but as soon as he turned around, he saw Charlie standing amongst the crowd of people. At this time, Charlie was looking at Albert with a grim expression on his face. Albert trembled in fright as he asked in a shaky voice, "Wade? Mr. Wade, what are you doing here?" Everyone was shocked when they heard Albert's words. What was happening? Albert had such a fierce reputation, but he was actually being so respectful toward Charlie? Moreover, why was he calling Charlie Mr. Wade when he was so much younger than him? At this time, Charlie looked at Albert coldly before he asked in a sharp voice, "Albert, is this your good brother? He is not only acting cool in front of me, but he kept chirping and saying that he is going to ask you to tear my mouth apart today." Albert was trembling in shock at this time. Who was Charlie? Charlie was even more important to him than his own father. If it weren't because Charlie appreciated him, he would never have gotten his hands on the magical pill. Moreover, he had been trying to get into Isaac's good books all this while, but to no avail. However, Isaac was now supporting him and showing him some respect because of his connection to Charlie. Therefore, Charlie was almost like Albert's own parent. As for Jake, he was just one of his lapdogs. Why would he attack his own parents? What the hell was this? At this time, Albert turned around and glared at Jake before he asked in an extremely cold and harsh tone, "You actually dared to offend Mr. Wade?" Jake was very shocked.